Hello, I'm retired Battalion Chief Larry Cockman from the Greensboro, North Carolina Fire Department History Book Committee. We're here today at the Greensboro Historical Museum. I'm standing in front of the General Green, the first steam pumper, or as they called it back then, a steamer. Today, December 9th, 2019, we are starting a new tradition of recording and preserving the heritage and culture of our retirees. Our retirees have contributed so much to the success of our great fire department. Their stories retire with them and are sometimes gone forever when they pass away. They will share their emergency calls that will always be a part of their memories forever. So sit back and listen as they carry us through their journey in the Greensboro Fire Department. Matt, it's like we talked about before, just start out telling us your name, your rank and retirement, a little bit about yourself. Anything you want to tell us to begin about who you are and what you're about.
My name is J.E. McCarter. They call me J.E. I started with the fire service in 1956, August 1st, 1956. There was 18 of us that Chief Wark hired, and we went through rookie school at the new training center on Church Street. At that time, the training center was out in sort of outlying of the country because it was dirt roads and all back in there. And we were the first training class. And Captain Powell had just been promoted to captain. And he was real scared. And us 18 guys were all scared. And I was weighing about 140 pounds then. And so we were going out there and we trained for 2 weeks and cleaned and washed winters for 2 weeks. Then we went on the line. There was no such thing as EMT or American Red Cross or something back then. And we just had a wonderful time. And
who were some of the people in your first training class?
Okay, there's 18 of us.
So that your
You
first
tell all?
Yeah, just know if you know them all.
I know them all.
Okay, let me hear who they
Now
were.
you go count them.
I'm gonna want you to tell me who they were.
All right. Junior Allen, Frank Jones, Joe Rankamp, Paul Kersey, Pete Walker, myself, Frank Howell, Wayman Hyatt, Lawrence Lambert, Herb Smith, Ted Weeks.
Another thing, how many are living out of your class?
There's 6.
6 of them.
6 of them living. There's Randall Simpson, Junior Allen, Frank Jones, Joe Rankamp, and Maynard Hancock.
Okay.
And they were in our class.
All good.
And there's about 5 of them quit after several years, and then they saw where they made a mistake in quitting, but back in, Chief Wark wouldn't hire him back.
How long was your training class?
4 weeks.
4 weeks.
From August the 1st to September 1st. And
Where was your first assignment out of training? Where did you go to?
Engine Company number 4, 14 Ashburn Street in South Greensboro. It was a very proper, back in, you didn't close the doors, you didn't lock the doors because it was a great highfalutin area back down in there. And the first year I was there, Engine Company number 4 was a leading company, which has always been the leading company in calls, and we rode 479 calls that year. And the guys now think I'm telling a story, but we rode 479 calls. And the first day of spring, the doors was opened up because we had to open doors from like the horse-drawn. And Captain Stubblefield was captain. And
That was your first captain?
No, Sprinkle was my first captain, but Captain Stubblefield run the station. He was bigger around than he was tall. And we never closed them until fall. We go out at night, leave them open, go to bed at night, leave them open. We never closed the doors. And the first day I went to work, on September the 1st, 1956, Captain Stubblefield come in, and I was standing up against the radiator, scared to death, and he walked by me, he looked me up and down, he didn't speak, he didn't say welcome to the company or nothing, he just walked right on by me. I said, what in the world have I got myself into? At 10 o'clock that morning, he started, and from that day, at 10 o'clock that morning, till the day I carried him to the grave, I could do no wrong. I could do no wrong.
He liked you.
I mean, I was his boy. I mean, he was, I wish y'all could see and hear him. And I could tell you some things that he told some of the chiefs, but y'all probably won't want to hear them. One day, the phone said, we got our calls by ring down line. So one day it was raining, and he picked the phone up and said, Engine 4, Stubblefield. He said, no, I'm not going to do it. He's talking to Chief Truelove. And Chief Truelove was going to go down and wash some gas down in the rain. He slammed the phone down, and that was the end of it. I mean, that's the kind of guy I work back in. And of course, Captain Sprinkle was my captain, P.D. Honeycutt was the driver, and me and Elvin Parrish rode the back.
Well, explain the ring down. What was the ring down?
Well, it was a comm center, and when they would give a call, Hoppy and Jim Newsom and Buck McFarlane and all them were switchboard operators then, you know. And they plug you in at 4, and they hold the phone down, and it rang constantly until you answered it. That's a ring down line, and we knew it was a fire call. But now if it beep, 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 it was something else, you know. But they would plug it in and pull that little button down, and it would ring until you answered it. That was a ring down. That's how we received our calls.
Were you originally from Greensboro area?
Yeah, 85 years.
Where'd you grow up at? What neighborhood?
Where I'm living now.
Okay, which is?
It's down. I grew up down in Sumner School area, and but my grandmother died, and my mother and daddy moved in with my granddaddy, and up on Wesley Place off of Lee Street, and I lived up there with them, and then of course I went back down and that's where I'm living now. I was raised in the house next to where I'm living now.
When you joined the fire department, where were you at in your life? What were you doing? Did you always want to be a firefighter?
Well, not really. I didn't know much about it, but I had a lot of friends that was in the fire service and so forth, and they come up with what they call an auxiliary fire, and then it's sort of like volunteer. And me and 2 or 3 of my buddies joined up because Dave White was Chief Warwick's son, and he was a real good friend of ours, and he talked us into joining the auxiliary. And they give us auxiliary patches and uniform and so forth, but we couldn't fight any fire, but we could just go up to the station and stay 4 or 5 hours or so forth. And then Dave he sold shoes, and he come by one day and he said, look, Pop's getting ready to hire some firemen. Why don't y'all go down there? So we go trucking down to Green Street, 312 Green Street, go in, Chief Wire didn't know what we were doing there. And we told him Dave would send us down there, so he gave us a piece of paper and an application to fill out and go over to Gilmore Clinic and get a physical. So we done all that, and then next thing I know, then it's got a letter come to work August the 1st, 1956.
Wow. What was, do you remember about your starting salary?
Yeah, $232 a month. $232 a month, we worked 96 hours a week. Worked 24 and 24 off. You was either going to work or getting off every day.
Oh, man.
And I was making $175 a month, so I got that raise at $232. And of course, when I went to Indian Company number 4, they treated me that you ain't gonna believe. They treated me like I was their son. And Captain Sprinkle, I mean, he was one of the greatest guys. Y'all didn't know him, but he was the greatest guy there ever was. And P.D. Honeycutt was the driver. You wouldn't think, if y'all ever saw him, as slow as he was, the son, he got on that fire truck, that 1948 American of France, son, out the door we went. And me and old Parrish would be wearing our raincoats, we'd be flying in the wind.
Tell me about the raincoats and the equipment you had.
Well, they give you, I still got my old plastic helmet. I still got the raincoat, and I dare all my children, don't touch it. I got it hanging in the garage. I said, don't touch it because it'll come apart. And you had to buy your own turnout gear, which was like, a new set was like $200 and some. And the guy come by every month and collected $5 a month for it. But if you found somebody that wanted to get rid of an old set, you'd buy it. And so I bought mine for $25. And you couldn't wear it except at night. They would not let you wear your turnout gear in daytime. We had pull-up boots and rubber coats, and the water run down your sleeve and all in there, you know. Because, see, back in, Chief Wyatt was the greatest chief in the world. He bought the uniform for you, and you go wear them. By 10 o'clock every morning, you would have a blue shirt and a necktie on. And you wore that necktie all day long. Fighting fire, whatever.
Boy, you fought fire in your necktie.
Necktie, fought fire, and if you hung a fan on the door like that right there, and if your coat was open, it would suck your tie into the fan. And he said, and so he bought us some of the prettiest blue shirts you ever saw in your life, a light blue. And
now the boots, the hip boots, I guess, how did they pull all the way up to you?
they pull up right here, right there, and then you fold them down. And,
when you were first hired, did you feel like you was doing the right thing in your life?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I had a very supportive wife, and she was very supportive of me. And of course, back then we didn't have any children, and we ended up with 5 children. And she would, of course, we had a caretaker who looked after the children during the day, and then Barbara, my wife, she had the children at night to look after when we were working, and she would bring them down to the station, first to tell them good night and so forth. And, but can you believe anybody had 5 children that looked after at night like that? I mean, it was unbelievable.
She's a good woman.
I still got her.
How many years you been married now?
67.
That's a good thing.
I told her mother I had her longer than she is.
Well, Captain Mack, I'm fortunate to get to be interviewing you because Captain Mack was my first captain, one of my first captains as a rookie. So some of the stories he's talking about, I do remember. Not all of them. He really goes way back. And let me ask you another question, Mack, Captain Mack. Do you remember your first call?
Yes, sir.
What was it about?
My first call was on Sunday. I went to work, went to Morningside Homes. Captain Sprinkle was off that day, and it was me and Parrish and Honeycutt. Well, I was riding the back of the truck by myself, didn't know what was going on, holding on like that. Got down there, and back in they had these refrigerators that had ammonia in them. And we pulled up down there that day and said, something wrong with this refrigerator. Yeah, well, ammonia leaking. And this house was really smelling bad, so P.D. Honeycutt, who was the driver, he said, well, what we'll do, we'll move it out into the yard for you. I said, well, that's fine. So we get ready to leave. Now, this is my first day now. We was getting ready to leave, and P.D. Honeycutt looked at me. He said, you think you can drive that truck back? Of course, I was shaking, having penny loafers on me, and see, we had to buy our own shoes, and I had penny loafers with dimes in the thing, you know. And I was like that right there, and I said, well, I don't know, I'll try. He said, well, let's try. And that's the kind of guys they were.
Right. Medical calls. Were they running medical calls back?
No,
What?
no. I was an ambulance, and the ambulances worked at a funeral home. And it was a load and go situation. It wasn't go out and check all these vital signs and talk to them and so forth. I mean, it was a load and go. And if they were running short of help at the funeral home, they called down at Central Station, and we would ride ambulance with them.
Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
Load and go.
All of us did. It was load and go. I mean, they throw you on a stretcher, and there at 5 Points, which y'all don't remember, was Elm and Lee there, call it 5 Points. I was riding the back of an ambulance coming out of Glenwood one night, and Red Greer, Paul Greer's daddy, was driving. He went around that curve about 90 miles an hour and threw me out of the seat over to the stretcher like that right there. See, Red Greer was one of the best there ever was. That's Paul Greer's daddy.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. They got a picture of him out there at Haynes Lineberry on Van Story Street on the wall where he was driving a 1949 Dodge. And then I got hooked up with another guy, Russell. What was his first name? His last name was Russell. They had a 49 Ford straight gear, and we were riding out to Yanceyville, and I looked over and I said, "You run about 90 miles an hour." I mean, that Ford was rolling, son.
The biggest fire, you remember some of your big incidents? You understand what some of it is now?
Well, South Atlantic Body Warehouse was probably one of the biggest fires we had at that time.
Where was that located at?
Down there on Friendly Avenue. In fact, we come out of Sears, me and my wife and children come out of Sears, and I looked down there and I said, "What in the world? The sky is opening up." And about that time, they were calling me to come in. So we went down there and we stayed down there for quite some time. And see, the Davis Street fire, I got cheated on it.
Got cheated? How'd you get cheated?
Well, I was laying there listening to the call, and Craig Lewis, Paul Miner, and Bob Boss was on the engine 4. Well, they pulled up and told what they had. And I supposed to went to work for Bob Boss at 6 o'clock that night, but he called me, he said, "Don't come in." So I was laying there, I listened, monitored all the calls, and I listened. I said, "Man alive, well, they got there to call for engine, I forget, one other engine, another engine, ladder truck, engine 9 from out Friendly." I said, "What in the world?" About that time the phone rang. They said, "Come in and get your men." So here I got in that 65 Chevrolet truck of mine, and I went up Elm Street running wide open, son. I rolled in the back of engine 4. Flowers was a battalion chief. He said, "I have no thought about you." I said, "What is that?" See, I called him Kermit. Nobody could call him Kermit but me. And he said, "Pleasant Garden is coming up here to stand by, and he wants you to stay here with the station."
Oh, man.
I said, "You got to be kidding." So all my guys, Reichel, Tom Slackey, and who was the other guy? Bill Brown. They got to go up there. So I sat out there in the back with my arm on the bench like this right here, listening to them talking and looking at all the fire. Sat there all night long in that fire and did not get the first call. And every engine and truck company in the city was up there. But here I sat out there and Flower done me a favor. So about 5 o'clock in the morning, he called me. He said, "Captain," he said, "if you want to, you can go on home." I said, "No, I'm not going home until I'm coming back at 8 o'clock in the morning, my shift."
Well, let me ask you this. You had quite the reputation of a captain and firefighter, always wanted to ride calls and loved it. What was one of your sayings? Did you have a saying? Fight fire?
Yeah, I like to fight fire.
Yeah. So
That's why I always tell, see, we rode, engine company number 4 rode the most calls, and a lot of times we would ride with 3 men, right, Harold? And I would tell my driver, I said, you catch your own hydrant. I said, 'cause we're going in. Me and old Harold were down there on Severe Street one day, and the house was burning like everything, and Craig Lewis was the driver. And that, I never will forget it. Me and Harold walked through the house just like this right here. And I said, how come Harold didn't catch a hydrant? I said, because. I said, what would I go do, go in there by myself? I said, the driver catches hydrant. Remember that, Harold?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you another question. Big Red, who got that name, Big Red? Where'd that come from?
You got in trouble over that, didn't you?
Not me, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
you did too. Don't you remember what Clarence Hayes said to you?
He might have said a lot, go ahead and let
You know how he talked to you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, see, we got these, Chief Powell got running scared when Guilford College come in. He went out here and bought these 4 yellow fire trucks. And they were about like a garbage truck. And so we had one down at 4. And we didn't like it worth nothing. So Jim Ball was assistant city manager. So he said, I'm gonna go back to red fire trucks. So he bought a new fire truck. And he gave it to us. And it's the first red fire truck that got back in service. So here was a battalion chief, and he said, I'm gonna tell you something. When you put that truck in service, you better not be playing. Well, we hadn't even got the darn thing in service. Tim Cox, and Tim Gibbs, and Keith Ingo and myself got a call. So I get on the radio, I said, engine company number 4, checking in service for Big Red. We pull up down there on Old Henry Boulevard, park was just rolling, son. Well, I go running in there. Tim Gibbs gets off catch a hydrant. He can tell you more about this than I do. So I get running in there, and 2 EMS boys was there. So I get up to the door. I said, something is wrong. I said, my head's on fire. He says, well, you got your cap on, you don't have your helmet on. So I went back, put my helmet on. So here comes Tim Gibbs running in there. And Steve Fuller and them had just come out of training. And there's on the engine too. And he'll swear to this day, I kicked the door down and knocked him down. Which I didn't, but he said I did. So we go in and put the fire out. And that is how Big Red. So we got Big Red put on the side of it. So one day, he loved to play with Larry. I mean, if y'all never worked with him, you don't know him. What they call him,
Big Bird.
Big Bird. He was a big bird, all right. He come down there one day. He said, how did that Big Red get on there? Larry said, I don't know. He said, you the battalion chief, you don't know? See, he'd already made it up for me what to say, you know.
He was messing with you.
Yeah, he was messing with you.
Yeah, I know.
Just like he would get Charlie Bean, he would get Charlie Bean so nervous he couldn't even talk. But
Well, I guess that was a culture, it still is. People mess with each other. Don't
Yeah.
mean anything, you just try to get a rise. And that's kind of the culture.
boy, we played with one another.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you a lot of things how we played with one another.
Who did you look up to? Did anybody looked up to along the way more than anybody else, as far as the fire department? Any particular names?
In the fire service,
Mm-hmm.
Chief, turned out to be Chief Sprinkle.
Why was he special?
Because he treated me like I was his son. And he never said rookie, far for a young guy or nothing. I mean, him and Parrish and Honeycutt, I mean, treated me just like I was their son, and I respected him. And we all go fishing together and enjoy one another. And
Do you remember, and those names, you know, like I said, I was with you when I was a young rookie, and a lot of those names I've heard before and heard always positive comments. So I guess not only with you, those fire officers made a big impression on a lot of people, a good impression. Now,
Let me say one more thing,
Okay.
what I was on my mind.
okay,
You come to engine company number 11 with Richard Case and myself. You had a little black pickup truck. You remember that truck?
I do.
Well, you let Richard Case borrow it one night. Well, he was playing, like always. He come back that day, I never forget, he said he got a ticket. Why did you get a ticket? Because you had a loud muffler in that truck. It scared Larry plumb to death. You remember that?
I do. He did a good job with that. Yeah, I thought he done got a ticket in my truck and I was gonna be in trouble.
But see, we had fun back then. I mean, that was no, right now, I don't care what you say, there's 600 and some people in this fire department, they don't know what fun is. My grandson works at engine company number 8. One day last week on a shift, he wrote 15 calls. I said, Matthew, how many calls you have? 15. How many fires? Oh, no. At 12 o'clock at night, he had an overdose where a guy smelled paint thinner at the overdose on it. I mean, that's the kind of calls they got now.
It's more medical calls now.
Yeah, I was all good.
Talking about your family, how many people in your family and where they in the fire service because of?
Well, Kendall, my oldest son, he was with Pine Cross Sedgefield, and Chief Cole called him and wanted him to come to work at Greensboro. He told him no, he didn't want to. He was going to stay at Pine Cross. So he went from a firefighter all the way to the chief. Keith, my youngest son, we wanted him to join the fire service, and he wasn't interested. He wanted to do everything else. So later on in life, he decided to join the fire service, and now he's a FEO at High Point, and he loves it. And my son-in-law, he's a battalion chief in Greensboro, on Danny Edwards. And Matthew, my grandson, he's a firefighter at Engine 8, been there 18 years, believe it or not.
Well, it sounded like you had a big influence on your family and had them trying to be like you.
Well, the fire department back then was like a family, you know that. I remember when you and your Jane and bring the children down there, and we'd all have fun, and Harold, he can tell you a lot about that too. We'd all have fun on Saturday or Sunday.
Best
We'd
day.
have cookouts and make ice cream and sit around and talk. And so many of the kids back in knew each other. They don't even go to fire stations anymore.
I know, that's something we hope,
That's sad.
hope that could change back someday, I hope so. Do you remember your most heartbreaking moment, something that really bothered you on call?
I do. We had back in South Greensboro, back on Ash Street, Whittington, McCulloch, all back down in there, and Gaston, y'all don't remember them streets, Gibson. They were little 3 and 4 room houses, and they were real close together. And everybody back in had wood stoves or heaters to heat the house with. So we got a call one evening to a house fire over on Whittington Street. Well, I was driving, and we pulled up there, that little house, I mean, it was just engulfed in flames. And there's a black lady standing out there just screaming her head off. My children's in there. Where are they? She would never tell us. Where are they? Well, Captain Marsh was riding the car that day in the place of Chief Devaney, and he got there, and he told me, he said, go over there and try to find out where they're at. So we went over there and had this badly shaker to say, where are your children in that front bedroom? Well, there was 3 of them in there. And believe it or not, they were about the same age as my children. And what happened, she come home with the children and built a fire. She took the ashes out and put them in a cardboard box. She set the cardboard box down next to the door. Well, you know what happened then, don't you? The cardboard box caught on fire, and it closed the door. If they was not burnt, there's smoke inhalation. And I couldn't help it. Her name was Dollar Davis. I never forget her name. Dollar Davis was her name. And there her 3 children was in there, overcome the smoke because of a careless thing she done. And when you look at them, and they're about the same age as your children, it touches you. Yeah. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Well, sitting here listening to you, you know, as firefighters that's in this room, it brings back, makes me think about some things too, which, how do you think we dealt with that? What's some ways you think we dealt with that? Because you know it bothers us. And
well, it did to a point, but it didn't bother us to where it wouldn't have like you got to go to stress and all that, you know. I mean, see, they don't fight fire now like they used to. I mean, they just don't fight fire like they used to. I mean, I can tell you some things that you wouldn't believe, and the young guy wouldn't believe, but it was a guy, Captain Johnny Fountain. He rode the ladder truck. You talk about a tough guy, he was one of them. He never put on his raincoat. He always wore a little checkered jacket. And we were down there on Martin Avenue one day, down below Engine 4. And I caught the hydrant. Well, I went up there. I couldn't hardly see the house, so much smoke. So I take 1.5 inches and I start up the steps. Well, somebody was pushing me. And I was backing back like that right there, and somebody was pushing me. He said, go on, go on. I was coughing. See, you didn't wear Scott air packs because it cost 15 cents to fill them. So I was on the stairwell. He kept on pushing. Got to the top of the steps. There was no more smoke at the top of the steps than it is right here in this building. And see, I was experienced. So he told me after that, he said, get up the steps, there ain't gonna be no smoke. Well, I said, I didn't know that. I just been on about a year. I mean, them old guys like that, you learn a lot from them.
You're talking about that. Do you think your right to passage or acceptance a lot back, even in the early part of my career was that way, but how much smoke you could eat or how much?
I mean, many times I've been in there and come back and had to change my underwear because it's so black.
What about your hair and your skin for when you go home? As far as your clothes, how would they smell?
Well, most of the time we had uniform to change, you know.
But anyway, your uniform you had on.
Right.
It would take you days to get some of that smell out of your hair. I know.
Well, yeah.
He was there with you.
They would have to say, like old Jay Lewis, I never forget one night, he said, I thought you took a bath. I said, I did. He said, I still smell you. But that's like a joking kind, you know?
Yeah, we had to do that. That's exactly
But
right.
you know, the thing about it is, back in, I never forget, Chief Benny, I thought I was doing back in 1957, one Sunday they got a call to, we got a call to Gillespie Coffee Shop. We go running down Ashburn Street. So we didn't have radios, we had telephones. And I saw Captain Sprinkle pick up that phone. And I looked over there, and all you could see was flames. So Parrish was driving, he drove wide open, so he never slowed down. So I turned in Pennsylvania and Troy Street, he told me to catch a hydrant. So I caught a hydrant. My penny loafers come off in the ditch. I got them put on. I was running down there, grabbed me an inch and a half, put on a hair pack, pulled my boots up. Because see, what happened, they closed the golf shop because they wanted to let the blacks play. Dr. Simpkins and all them guys said, we're going to play. No, you're not playing. We're going to close the golf shop. Well, we couldn't prove it, but something happened that set it on fire. Well, here I was up there on the ladder with an inch and a half, and Chief Devaney, see, we only had 2 chiefs back then, and we didn't have all these chiefs like you got now. McCarter, come here. So I go there. He says, take that thing off and get in there and put that fire out.
Take your air pack.
Yeah, take my air pack off. It cost 15 cents to fill it. So I go up there and take it off, put it down. That's when we had them old Scots, old-timey Scots. So I get back up on that ladder and gag and cough and throw up and puke and carry on. You tell these guys out here, they don't believe all that stuff. I caught 5 hiders in one day.
5 hiders in one day. Now, would you do it all over again?
Yes, sir, buddy. Yes, sir, I have no regrets, none regrets.
What's some of the biggest changes from when you started out and what you see now, and as you got later in your career, what's some of the biggest changes you've seen come about in the fire department, Greensboro?
That they don't let the company officers run the companies. And now you know very good and well, both of y'all work with me. And I didn't let them come in and tell me how to run my company.
That's right.
But now, they got a call and ask them and do this and do that. And most of you, I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong, but most of you supervisors has never been in that capacity. Never has. In fact, Harold wasn't working with me that particular shift. But they called down there one morning, and that chief's still living. I ain't gonna call his name. He called down there, and he says to me, he said, we want y'all to go down to L. Richardson tonight at 12 o'clock for his blanket drag. I said, what station did you call? He said, Station 4. I said, well, no, I'm not going down at no 12 o'clock at night. He said, yeah. He said, what we're going to do is get the second shift and third shift together so we can, you know. I said, well, you better call another station then, because I'm not going. I said, I go to bed at 7:30. Well, he said, well, we expect you to go down there. I said, well, don't expect the engine company number 4 to go down there, because we're not going. I hung the phone up. I never heard nothing go wrong. You think that happened today? No, they write you up.
Well, back, actually, when I was younger, and of course, in the early days, the captain ran the station, and the battalion chief was like God back then. I mean, he ran the battalion.
Yeah,
he didn't have to ask for a lot. He did it himself. Yeah.
But you know, this is like you and Carl Eller. I respected both of y'all and had you as rookies. And when you got promoted, I respected you just like I did Captain Sprinkle and Honeycutt and them. Carl Eller come in there and sat down in my office, and he said to me when he got promoted, he said, you ain't gonna believe how funny I feel. I said, what's wrong, Chief Eller? He said, here I am, your battalion chief, and I was your rookie. I said, look, I said, that don't bother me one bit. And I respected him just as much as I did any other chief, just like you. And you know yourself, when you were battalion chief, Purvis, Halsey, Willie Johnson, and me, we had such a great time. And we respected you as a chief, and we tried to make you look good.
I know you did, and I appreciate that. What's the one person in your life that you would like to give a lot of credit to for your success? Is there anybody that stands out?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Elvin Parrish.
What about off duty? Anybody off duty you'd like to? Your family, anybody you'd like to give any credit to?
Well, my whole family, because they stood behind me, and we had a good working relationship. See, back then, if you worked for somebody, you was gone for 3 days at a time. And I had to work 5 days at a time. And my wife was there with them 5 children. Like I said a while ago, she'd bring them down to the station. We'd have maybe ice cream or lunch, and they'd tell us good night and then go back. I mean, you know, I had a good career. And I had the best supervisors there ever was.
Well, going back to a little bit what you said about some chiefs that you worked for, maybe was your rookie. Captain Mack, you had a big influence on me and some other people, the way you taught us things and the way you approached the fire department. And as we got promoted, we didn't forget that. So you influenced a lot of people in your career in a positive way. And I really appreciate you coming out here. Is there anything else that you'd like to tell us about yourself? I know I've tried to.
You know,
You got any stories you could tell us about Captain Mack?
and yeah, we had a fire down there on Beston and Bragg one morning. I was laying in my bed asleep, and people beating on the windows and carrying on, and doors ringing and so forth. And I looked out, and it said there's a fire down there. Well, I looked out, and sure enough, it was. So I was down the hill back then. That's what they call the hill. So we firefighter Ingo and Fowler, and we got on the engine coming down the floor, went down there, and we pulled up down there. About that time, old Purvis and his group come on in there, and we beat our brains out fighting fire. And see, had a watchtower on the top of that building to where they put a guy up there, and see a police coming. He called back and said, the police is on the scene, because the hill back end was, I mean, it was unbelievable. From 12-year-old to 90-year-old. And we went down there, and the old purpose, we beat our brains out. Went back down about 11 o'clock that day, and D.H. Griffin then come and cleaned the whole building up. I mean, they cleaned it off. And we had been down all night beating our brains out, you know.
Well, you know, Captain Mack, you've mentioned a lot of different names and things. The word brotherhood, I know, what does that mean?
What's that?
Brotherhood, you know, people, firefighters liking each other, doing it.
Well, I mean, you know, like I said a while ago, we were like families. You know, take like, I mean, I guess.
Did firefighters help? In other words, if somebody was sick, or if somebody died, or if somebody needed some help or something, what about the brotherhood? Did y'all go?
Well, let me go back a little ways. Talk about this Captain Stubblefield. I was going to put a porch 4 in one Saturday, and I had got some lumber from down Wicks, and I didn't say anything to ask Parrish and Honeycutt and Stubby, and so they said, we'll be there to put it in. I said, no, So what did they do? All 3 of them, we come down here and put it in, but dinner time we had it done. And my aunt, she cooked some apple pies, and I said, how much owe you? You act like insulting. All they want is a piece of apple pie. But back in, I mean, work together. If you had a garden and you wanted to pick a bunch of green beans, y'all go out and pick them together.
So the brotherhood is a good example of brotherhood. They looked after each other on the job, off the job.
Yeah.
Families got together more. It was just a tight. I guess unless you are a firefighter, you really wouldn't understand that.
Well, number one is families don't go to the fire station like they used to. They don't go around the fire station like they used to.
You, how old are you, Captain Mack?
85.
I am amazed at the recall that you have of names and places and events. That, to me, that's amazing, and I appreciate you tying the names and the places and events together.
You see, I had Mike Henley and Pat Henley, both as rookies. Two of the finest guys you ever saw in your life. And Pat, look where he's at today. Larry Patterson, which is a black guy, I never thought of him being black. Craig Lewis and Pat and I went down behind the depot on Washington Street one cold, rainy afternoon to a building fire. Well, we was wearing our pull-up boots. So I headed off. I jumped off the truck, and I was only known for kicking the door down. So here I go jumping off the truck. I run up there and I kick that door. And it opened about that way, and when it closed to, it pulled my boot off. And I looked around, I didn't want them to see me. And what are they doing? Standing back there laughing. Because there my boot was in the door where my foot was at, and it was cold and raining. They thought it was funny.
It's still funny.
Like you. You don't want me telling about you.
I don't care if you tell us. Go ahead, I don't care.
No, you don't want me telling.
If you want to tell him, you can go ahead. Go ahead, that's fine.
You're going to embarrass you.
No,
Huh?
go ahead.
I never will forget it. We were going to Smith Homes over in Florida Street. Larry was driving. We had the clutch siren on the fire truck. Push it away, push it on. So we get down there to Florida and around the road, and Larry stops. And I had the siren wide open, lights on. I said, Larry, what are you doing? I said, what are you doing? He said, I'm picking my nose. And I can see him right there. This is what you do.
And from that day forward, Captain Maggs always said, the only man I ever seen drive a fire truck and pick his nose at the same time.
I mean, he pulled up and I had a siren wide open, son. But he was a good fireman, a good guy to work with. We never had no trouble. We all eat alike. So they don't eat now like we used to.
Cooking.
They don't know how to cook. They don't want to cook. And I've heard people say, well, Reed, I don't want to cook. I don't want to clean the kitchen up. Well, if you don't clean the kitchen up, you're not eating with me.
Talk about that a little bit, the cooking. Why is it important for companies to cook together and eat together like that? What does it do to you?
It's togetherness. Hal Haney can tell you, can tell me. It's like he had a certain, like he peeled potatoes and I'd cook the meat and cook the biscuits and you'd do something, you know. I mean, and everybody knew what each other liked.
Yeah, it's getting away from that, son.
Well, no, I mean, my grandson, like I say, they go out and eat. It costs them $15 a day. Eat 2 meals.
What did it cost back then a day?
$5 or less. And that was 2 good meals. Yeah. On Sunday morning, we would take turns cooking, bringing in food for breakfast on Sunday morning. And then in the afternoon, we'd probably eat a grilled cheese sandwich or potato soup or something for lunch. And then we'd have a cookout of hamburger, barbecue or something, or make ice cream in the summertime. And all the families would come up, and the kids would get out there and play and have just a wonderful time. And it was just togetherness. And we had a lot of police officers come by and eat with us, and EMS workers. And all right, well, he was our paper boy, and he was a real good little boy, but he come from a sort of family that was, I don't know, I hate to say it, but they didn't look after him like I thought they did. And we always looked after him. We'd give him clothes and first one thing and another, and he would come down and spend the afternoons with us, and sometimes he'd spend a night with us. And so back then we had
I remember Curtis.
Yeah, he was. We fed him, always buy him something. When he went to junior, senior prom, we dressed him up and sent him along, things like that. This is, guys, it was just unbelievable back then how things worked. And we had a blind guy who used to come over the station, Tom Price, Gary Payne's granddaddy. He come over every day.
That's who I bought my first truck. You remember that? Mm-hmm. Remember what he told me? About he rubbed the truck and he couldn't see. The thing looks good.
Yeah. Well, he'd bring his dog over there, and he had a seeing-eye dog, and we'd crawl underneath the chair there and unhook the dog, and he'd jerk like this right there, you know. Then we'd slide in there and untie his shoes, Tom's shoes, real easy at a time. He would tie them together so when he got ready to get up. But I quit playing the rook when he come down there, because a blind man beat me playing rook. I wasn't playing. He had braille cards. So that guy was unbelievable. Hey, Gary Payne, granddaddy. Old Gary, now he's a good guy.
And thank you for coming out
But
here.
I had a great time in the fire service, and I'll do it again. But I'd like to see the pay a bit better than it was when I was there.
Now, what was it again? Refresh my memory.
232. Well, like Chief White come in one day, and he said, he was really a people person. But you didn't tell him what to do, he told you what to do. And my hair ain't never been long. He come over and told me to go get a haircut. I said, Chief White, my hair ain't. I didn't ask you where it was long enough. He said, go get a haircut. And now, of course, then Chief O'Shea, when he took over, he was the most easy-going person you could ever find in your life. I mean, Chief O'Shea was a different caliber person than Chief White, but he ran a good fire department. And he was the one that got us in short-sleeve shirts and took the ties off. So Chief White, we wore long. I could tell you a little bit about them white shirts, but y'all probably want to hear that while everybody went to white shirts. But we've had a white shirt and a tie all day long. And then Chief O'Shea gave us short sleeve shirts. And of course, Chief Powell, he was just the greatest guy in the world, because we saw him from our class, saw him from the captain, move all the way up to the chief. And then, of course, Chief Flowers, his wife, told me, she said, you're the only one that can call him Kermit and get by with it. See, his name was Raymond Kermit Flowers. And you talk about somebody can sign a pair of shoes. He could shine your shoes where you comb your hair in them. And he was a great guy. And when I got ready to go up there and sign my retirement papers, they said, you ain't signing these papers. Him and Brad Cox said, you ain't signing these papers. Said, we don't want you to go, we want you to stay till we go. I said, that made me really feel good, because me and my wife, you both are retired, and you know that's a hard decision to make when you get ready to retire. You got these options today. And me and Barbara had talked about this thing for a long time. And once you sign that paper, that's it. There's no going back. And so we decided that I was going to retire on August the 1st of 1995 on my anniversary date. And if I could stay another year, it'd have been the same thing, the same feeling. And like I say, Brad Cox is the greatest guy I had him as a rookie. And Chief Flowers was, I mean, they said, no, you ain't gonna sign these papers. We want you to stay. That made me feel good. I mean, it made me feel good. And the thing about it is, I mean, I respected all five chiefs. Now, Johnny Taylor, I never get to work for him. But I saw him come up through the ranks. I saw him come up through the ranks from the time he's hired, and of course he quit. Then he come back, and then he moved right on up. I never got to work for him. But
what about Frank? You worked for Frank? Did you work for Frank?
Yeah, I worked for Frank. I was his second man. I was his water boy.
And tell us the story behind that water boy. He was Frank's water boy.
Well, you won't believe it, but Frank Jones was probably one of the best basketball players in Greensboro Senior High ever had. And his mother decorated his bedroom with all them articles about him. He was raised out here in the Mill Village. And me and Frank was really tight. And I was his water boy. And
now, did you go through training with Jones?
yeah.
That's right.
And he'd always say, he's number one, I'm number two. He'll tell you that today. And of course, he and I were always real close. But Frank, he done a good job too. But the thing about it is, I mean, times has changed. I hear so much stuff now going on. And the thing about it is, firefighting is a good job. I don't care what anybody says. And I'd recommend it. But everybody can't fight fire, and everybody can't get promoted. And it didn't worry me if I didn't get promoted. So I had a good time.
Well, you and I both know this. It's not, people don't remember your rank after you're gone. What they remember is how you treated them and how you made them feel. And Captain Mac, I can honestly say that your reputation, you made people feel good. They respect you and love you. It didn't matter about the rank. What matters is what you
Well,
did.
I feel the same way, Larry. I mean, you know, if I had got promoted, which I didn't, and I wanted to, don't get me wrong. Now, I got promoted in Pinecroft as assistant chief. And right today, you ain't gonna believe how them guys still respect me. If they voted on me for a hero of the year, I was recognized last Saturday. I mean, things about this, you can't forget them things. And honestly, I can tell that this is honest truth. All my whole career, I never had no words with no battalion chiefs or no supervisors or nothing. And they were all good to me. But like Chief Cockman, he let me run my shift. He didn't come down and say, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. Brad Cox, he called me up, he said, I want a bowl of white beans for dinner. I'd fix him a bowl of beans. Now I had him as a rookie. Now you're talking about a good squadman. Steve Fowler and Brad Cox was probably the two best squadmen the city of Greensboro ever had. But you know what? I'm going to tell you one other thing before I leave.
Okay.
I told you a while ago, Chief White run the fire department. Well, when he hired 28 black guys in 1961, they couldn't 28 white guys couldn't have done a better job than 28 black guys. And I think they trained for about 2 months. But when they come on the line at engine company number 4, engine 11 and engine 2 had to ride every call with them when they went out for, I don't know, 6 months maybe, to help them. Good guys. But Chief Warwick would go down there sometimes, and he'd fire 2 or 3 at a time. He'd fire them. And they begged Chief Boucher, said, don't never let that guy come down there again, because every time he comes, he fires somebody.
Excuse me.
So when they come out of rookie school, they told him, they said, you do go ahead and put them out into the stations over the city. He said, hell no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to put them all down there by themselves, 14 on each shift. 14 on each shift. 7 on the ladder and 7 on the pumper. Them guys over there was like me, they scared to death. They done a great job. And some of them left, some of them didn't want to fight fire. They were so good. And when they, the day they decided to put them out in the companies, they were scared. I mean, they were scared. And they all went out and done a good job. Done a good job. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. And like I say, of course, Chief Warwick, they scared him. I mean, he was scared. Chief Warwick, I wish y'all could have known him.
Well,
He's a great big guy, and he didn't never talk low, and he cussed every other breath.
times have really changed, and things have got.
Well, we couldn't work it now.
Yeah.
They'd fire me the first half a day.
Well, this is what this is about. To like we talked about, to preserve the heritage and the memories and the stories of our firefighters from the past, and compare how things have changed. Some things for not as good, I would say, and some things have changed for the better.
Well, it's just like fishing trips, for example. Her daddy, Greer, Jimmy Williams, and who was it? The 4 of them always go fishing together. You remember that? Dewey Kivett, Raymond Reddick, Parrish, and said we'd go fishing together. I mean, we had a group, we go together. I mean, we knew. We knew at Parrish and Dewey and Raymond and me, we'd all go together. And Purvis and Greer and Jimmy Williams, and there's another one, I can't think who it was now. I mean, see, that's the way it was. See, nowadays, I mean, I bet you Larry and me could not name 50 of the people in the fire department today.
Probably not. You're right.
And back then, I could tell you where everybody was and what company was on and everything. And you know, the thing about it is, I mean, I don't think it's together. I talked to Mark Armfield from Engine 5 Saturday. And over at Engine 5, that's a very busy station. But it's so crowded. It is so crowded. They got so many things over there. I mean, you have to wait to take a bath, you know.
Talk about that a little bit, the cubicles versus the big dormitory where you sleep in there. You think the cubicles make it harder for people to get to know each other?
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you one other thing. This one guy was sent down to Station 61 as a fill-in for a shift. This ain't been long ago. So what does he do? He goes down there, and Averson, what's his name? Pete Averson was the chief. He sent him down there. So he goes in. Where's everybody at? You and your cubicle, you and your cubicle, you and your cubicle. Well, what do we do about eating? Everybody eats on their own. He said, he told Chief Pete Adderton, he said, Chief, he said, I love his job to death. But please don't never see me down there again. He said, 24 hours down there by myself.
Yeah, that's how times have changed.
And you talk about, in fact, I told her Chief Harry's daughter at church yesterday, because she's getting up in pictures and so forth. And Chief Hare, I told him when I went to work at Engine 4 back in 1956, I said, "You're the oldest man I ever know in my life." I was 20 years old and he was 41. And I told her that yesterday. And I said, when he got ready to chew tobacco, had to go out there and sit down on the bench beside of him while he chewed tobacco and spit.
I gotta add, the Pepsis and onion. You always had a big Pepsi and onion.
We'll have one today.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about how did that get started? How did you get started doing that?
I don't know. I just grew up and eating onions and drinking Pepsis. Big old guy, Stanberg.
Yeah, Steinberg.
Jack Stanberg. Mm-hmm. He said to me one day, he said, "You still drinking them Pepsis?" I said, "Well, yeah." "How often you drink one?" I said, "Well, it's according to the weather." I said, "If it's hot, I might go in 45 minutes. He said, "You know what?" He said, "You need to stop that." I said, "You need to stop that." He would walk with a walker. Couldn't hardly get around, walk with a walker. But he told me to stop drinking Pepsis. Jack did. But I don't know. In fact, I'm going to Walmart on the way back home. There's not a Walmart out this way.
Yeah, off of Battleground. So you eat at least one onion every day?
I try to. I don't like to cut them up, though. I eat them whole.
Just eat them whole. I've seen you do that. Yeah. And drink the Pepsi at the same time.
Yeah. Well, me and Honeycutt and Parrish were going fishing. We stopped down in Elizabeth town one night to get some gas, and that's when they had them 16-ounce Pepsis. And Parrish, I always think he'd come out here and tell you about that. And we all stopped and went in there, and that's when they had them in boxes, you know, like that right there. So I got me a 16-ounce Pepsi, and I sucked that thing down right quick. And this old man running that service station, he was an old-timey guy. I said, "I got to have another one." And he swore you to take a bath in it. I tell you what, boy, you ain't gonna believe the good times we had.
Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you. Did I get any gas money?
I'll give you some in just a few minutes. We hope you enjoyed watching these documentaries. It was our goal to share and preserve the memories of our retired Greensboro firefighters. It is our desire that these documentaries will inspire future generations to continue the brotherhood, sisterhood, and camaraderie while always striving for excellence in their careers. While fire apparatus, equipment, and technology have improved, several things will always remain the same. The courage and bravery it takes to mitigate natural and man-made disasters will always be a part of the job. Although our retirees are no longer a physical part of the GFD world, a giant piece of each retiree's memories have been shared with you today. These memories will be in their hearts and minds forever. A special thank you goes out to Captain Harold Haney for his many long hours of recording and editing. Thank you, Harold. A job well done.